Happy Thursday to you. I am Jen Yates. You're locked on to Jyneration Nation here on LRS102.com. We are the Walrus, Louisville's rock stream. I'm super pumped. I'm always pumped. I say that every day. I have Janet Planet up in my studio. How you doing, Miss Janet Wolfe?
Hey, Jen. Glad to see you.
Yeah. I wanted to start out by asking you about your affiliation with LRS through the years. Are you familiar with LRS?
Yes, actually, one of my friends, Kenny Lyons, he was the Walrus back in the 70s.
Wow, no kidding. Well, we've been around since 1964.
Oh.
So that must have been early on during, the earlier inception years, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
super cool. Well, fingers crossed that I might get to be the Walrus one day.
I'll be your bodyguard. I'll give you water.
You came in with a bodyguard, and
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to hire y'all because I need a bodyguard.
Chauffeur, bodyguard. He does it all.
I even need bodyguards at funerals. Isn't that sad?
That is sad.
Yeah, it's a messed up world, Louisville, Kentucky. Y'all are crazy people out there sometimes, and slightly red for my taste. I tried to move here to get away from the rednecks, not to get embedded with them. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Anyway, I'm glad to have you up in my studio. And yes, you could be my walrus bodyguard any day of the week. When Skinny J told me they had the walrus costume still, I said, well, I've been a mascot for at the WB. I was Michigan J Frog. I was the Adair County High School Indian. Back in the day when I was in high school, I'd play drums in that big costume. And it was crazy because you couldn't see from the eyes down. You could only see from the eyes up. So I couldn't even see the drums. I just kind of had to feel that they were there. And we would do like Land of a Thousand Dances.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And sometimes Wipeout or something like that, But that was funny. So I was like, please let me be the walrus just to say I've been the walrus.
We'll take photos. It'll be awesome.
Yes. Awesome. So, Janet, I'm excited to have you here. I've known you for quite a long time. Do you remember how we met? I was thinking about this the other day.
Of course.
You do?
You were playing a gig with Marion Dries at Julian's. It's the first time I saw you live.
Oh, wow. That's a long time ago.
I know.
Yeah, Marion Dries, man. I still talk to her and her husband, John, and they had a band called The Dissidents, and they hired me to play drums for them. Yeah, and then I hired her for my all-female band, The Dolly Crisis, which was my early 20s. So
Okay.
that's been almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago. Actually, maybe longer.
Back in the day, there was a Louisville Music Alliance,
Yeah.
and I would go out and critique all the local bands
Okay.
and write it up in our little newsletter.
Well,
so.
I love that. That's cool. I'm glad you remember that because my memory is very shoddy these days about how I met all these people that I know. I just know so many people at this point. It's crazy because I've always traveled and played music and been in the public eye and been very social, you know what I mean? So sometimes people come in here and I'm like, how did we meet? I don't remember, but I'm glad you remember that. Man, Jillian's, was that the basement of Jillian's? Do you remember? Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, which is now Diamonds.
I've never been in there.
Yeah, it's the same kind of layout. It's still the same, basically. The downstairs is really cool. I've seen some shows there over the years. They still have the pool tables. They still pack it in. I always like that little area right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say I call it the armpit of Bardstown Road. It's kind of like in the armpit section of Bardstown Road, which I consider, of course I made this up, but I consider north of Grinstead on Bardstown Road is the armpit when you start to get into Baxter Avenue and all that. I've been going up and down the Highlands for a long time in Bardstown Road, that strip, and I tend to stay in between the Eastern Parkway and Grinstead area of the Highlands. That's kind of my jam right there. But if you start to get a little bit north of that, it starts to get really young and really crazy, and a lot of drinking goes on in that area, and I just think it's funny to call it the armpit of Bardstown Road.
I agree.
I love all of it. Don't get me wrong, but it is kind of funny to say that. Anyway, so you've done a lot of cool stuff in your day concerning music, and I want to talk all about it because that's what LRS is all about, right? LRS, like we were talking about, has been around since the early 60s. We were breaking all the great bands. In fact, do you know anything about where we are right now, where we're broadcasting live?
No, but Jim gave me a good lesson on it before you got here.
Okay,
it's a great building.
Oh, yeah. And did you get to see the dilapidated theater upstairs?
No, I didn't get that
well,
far.
I will give you the tour as soon as we're done. It's very creepy. I keep saying they need to have ghost hunters in here and people doing EVPs and stuff because it's just a strange, odd space up there, Back in the day, this was the Guild Theater. and it was like a mini palace, and the ticket booth is still out front, and they have since renovated the whole bottom. The top is still the theater. And Marvin Maxwell was in here, and he was telling me that back in the 60s and 70s, every amazing band you could imagine played here. And he played with most of them. And he actually brought us vinyl that they had recorded here in this building. And they told me just yesterday that Black Sabbath used to play here. Pink Floyd used to play here.
No way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous upstairs. Yeah.
I just saw Marvin the other day.
You did? What was Marvin doing?
There was a benefit at Stevie Ray's for Wayne Young's son, Derek.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I was on the board of Murph.
Right.
You know, so I love Wayne Young more than anything, and the Maxwells just are amazing.
Oh, of course.
people.
Well, Marvin's been in. Max is coming in. I'm trying to get Mark. There's so many of them, I can't even keep them up. You know, and then I would love to have Wayne Young in here.
He doesn't get out very much.
I
The other night
know.
was the first time he's played in 2 years. He looks amazing, but his health is kind of sketchy right now.
Yeah. Man, that's so sad. You know, when we watch our musicians go downhill, and we were just talking about this, I just lost my bass player of 12 plus years, Sue Riley, last week, and it was really tough, and it's been constantly really tough. I swear she woke me up last night.
No way.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Have you ever had experiences with spirits?
Once in a while.
Okay. I constantly have them, and it freaks me out sometimes, but at the same time, people, you can call me crazy. I don't care. I know what I see. You know what I mean? And I know what was told to me. Anyway, I'm pretty sure she woke me up last night when they had this whole conversation, and then after the conversation was gone, poof, she was gone. Her dog was there, which, by the way, they just put down yesterday.
No.
Yeah, the dog went like a couple days after her, which is sad. And she had her bass, her guitar, and her little fedora on. And she was apologizing, and just, you know, we had this whole conversation. It was really weird. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Angels watch over
I
us.
know. Well, yeah.
know that.
And I know Bev is around me at all times. I see her. I feel her. I sense her around. This morning when I got up, I went outside to go to my car, and there was a big old bird feather laying right in this space where there could be no bird. And I was like, that's very odd. But Bev collected bird feathers, and she always had an African gray and a couple other birds around her at all times. So I associate birds with her a lot of times. You know, the day that she passed, a cardinal bird came and like sat right next to me, which is weird because usually cardinal birds don't want to get nowhere near people.
No.
Especially me. So I was like, you know, anyway, there are little things that pop up, you know, throughout our daily lives that if you're paying attention to the signs, I feel like it is a spirit or an angel presence trying to give you a sign saying, hey, pay attention to this, you know. So I
agree.
do. And then I just lay back and watch what happens, you know. So it is hard when we see our musicians kind of go downhill, and when you get to that point, and I feel like I've almost hit my peak, and I'm starting to go down past that peak, just physically, on a physical level. We were talking about the nerve damage in my arm. It's really hard, you know, man, when you're used to playing something a certain way, and then you can't do it anymore. It really is hard.
I'm on disability now, you know, and I'm a musician. I got a music degree from Murray.
Right.
Clarinet, piano. I try to write songs.
Yeah.
My body just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. The physical body, it just goes downhill. What's funny, though, is they say your mental, I mean, on the inside, though, you still feel like you're in your 20s. You know what I mean? Mentally, you think you are, but your body physically is not.
Yeah, I think I'm still in puberty most of the time.
Me too. Anyway, so let's get back to you and all the cool stuff you've done, because we can talk drum corps internationals with you. We can talk everything. How did you get your start in music? Were you born into a family of musicians, or, you know, how did that come to fruition?
Both of my aunts played piano. I remember 4 years old learning on my aunt's piano, kind of close to Oxmoor. My little legs dangling, and I just started teaching myself. And I started
How old
playing
were you?
4.
4 years old? Wow, that's very young.
And then I started clarinet in 4th grade back then.
Okay. Well, we've got that in common because I played clarinet for a long time. I can still toodle whatever, you know. I can still read it and all that good stuff. Clarinet in high school. Middle high school, and then high school in concert band. But then I also did bass clarinet. which I loved.
I love bass clarinet.
Me
I went to school
too.
at Murray, and
Yeah.
we did the Nutcracker, and I got to play the bass clarinet
Oh,
solo.
cool. Yeah, bass clarinet is, I think, a much cooler instrument than just a regular clarinet. You know what I mean?
It's such a deep, deep sound. That's what I like about clarinets. They kind of have that dark, woody sound.
Windy sound, yeah, exactly. It's not as high pitched as a flute. It's not as deep, almost as a saxophone. And they do have the wood sound to them because the sax really isn't made of wood. You don't get that sound out of a sax.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because it is made out of wood, it has a whole different kind of dynamic.
Yeah. Do you still have your clarinet? I'm just curious.
Selling it this week.
Oh no! Just because you can't play it anymore? Or?
No, because I can't pay the bills.
Oh, I understand. So you're selling your clarinet. Well, we need to get you some money so you can keep your clarinet, man.
It's all right. The check's in the mail.
All right. Whatever works.
I'll get another one of these days.
You know what? I got one I'll give to you. I don't know how great of shapes. The pads are kind of busted, but it's a great clarinet.
I found like the clarinet experts in our country. I found them. There's a new one that just moved to Louisville like 3 weeks ago.
A clarinet expert?
Yeah, he takes them apart, fixes them, dolls them up.
Oh, love that. Well, great.
Jonathan Copeland.
Jonathan Copeland. And how did you run into this clarinet expert? I didn't know there was such thing, but it makes sense.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Because, there's all these clarinet groups.
Yay.
There's support groups for everything on
There's a
Facebook.
clarinet support group.
Yep.
Are you? Nuh-uh.
International clarinetists.
You're blowing
There's a
my mind
couple
right
of
now.
them. Yeah, that's
Oh,
where
wow.
I found them.
Hey, if anybody's got a clarinet out there and you need help with it, we got clarinet experts on Facebook. Who knew? Oh, I love it. This world blows my mind sometimes. You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. Well, cool. You'll have to hook me up later on. And hello, Jonathan, if you're listening, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, you played clarinet, you played piano. I want to know, how did you transition into drums? Because you are a female drummer.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm all about me some female drummers.
That's totally why we're pals.
I know.
Let's see. I guess it was Murray State. Getting that music degree, you have to take a percussion class.
Okay.
So I was in the racer band at Murray. They have the most awesome marching band in the universe.
Man, I've heard so many amazing things about people that I know that I went to high school with that went to Murray and was in the music department. And yes, they're very recognized as one of the tops.
It was awesome. I did clarinet the first 2 years. Then I started marching drum corps. I ended up doing bass drum for a year in racer band. There were 3 of us girls in the bass drum line.
What, can I ask what year it was? Is that offensive?
82 or 83.
Okay. 82. So this is prior to, and I want to educate people on this that probably have no clue this even exists. Back then, the harnesses were not made for women. The harnesses for bass drums pressed your breast like into your soul.
Yeah.
Nowadays, guess what? I saw this not too long ago, probably about 5 to 10 years ago. They just started making harnesses for women for bass drum lines and snare drum lines and quads. Because back then, the whole plate was your whole front of your body was a shield. They didn't take into consideration that you might have boobs. You know what I mean?
It's true. And
they were made for men. So now they're making a harness that goes over your neck and shoulders and only has one strip that goes in the middle down and then holds the drum, so that therefore your breasts are out. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah. So they're specifically made for women, which thank you.
Wow.
Thanks for thinking a chick might play some drums.
Are there any female drum lines? Now, there used to be a couple of female drum corps, but
there was? I didn't even know that.
Like one from Canada, Le Chatelaines, back in the 80s.
Wow.
There were a couple.
See, this is why I wanted you in, because your knowledge is so deep of marching band. And I was a huge fan of DCI. Obviously, going to Adair County, having the experience I did, marching band was a huge part of our lives. It was where I'm from. Marching band is a tradition thing that if your family was doing it, you're going to do it too. It was a tradition. And nobody cared about the sports really in Adair County. They only cared about the marching band. So where I'm from, people cared more about music than they cared about sports, And I love sports, but it does teach competition. It teaches you to bully others. It teaches you to beat people up. You know what I'm saying? It teaches you not great things. Yes, you can learn how to be sportsmanlike and sportswomanlike or whatever it is. But there's so much more that you can gain from music rather than sports, in my opinion.
Oh, totally. The teamwork it takes to get that production on the field.
Right. The work you put into it. I mean, we used to almost practice 40 hours a week. This is before child labor laws. But, I mean, you can't do that now, I don't think. But back then, I mean, after every day of school, we were on that field until super late, and we got few breaks. It was hot.
Very hot.
Marching band is always in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Band camps are starting up pretty soon if they haven't already.
Yeah, they sure are. I know I've got a lot of kids that are in different marching bands all around the state in multiple different counties, even over in Indiana as well. But yeah, I loved marching band. Marching band taught me so much, and our motto was eyes with pride, head up, eyes with pride, and you always, there's just so, it's based out of military, obviously.
Right.
It's very strict. And my dad was in the Adair County High band in the 70s, of course, and they had been winning state championships since the inception of state championships, and they're still winning state championships.
They're amazing. That's when you said you went to Adair, I'm like, oh.
I know. It's funny because when I came to Louisville in 99, I used to get this all the time. I did not understand the whole school system thing because where I'm from, there's one public school. There's no private schools. There weren't any Catholic schools. They didn't separate genders, or any of that stuff. And so I'd get, where are you from? What school did you go to? And I'd say Adair County High School, and they'd either two reactions. They'd look at me and be like, "Where is that?"
Mm-hmm. Probably that's. The
and
most
then
likely.
I'm like South Central Kentucky, in between Lake Cumberland, Green River, or I would get, "Oh, we hate you because of your marching band." That's what I would get all the time, especially if the people went to male high school or PRP, because back in the day, PRP had a great marching band.
I worked with them one year.
Yes, and Mel has always had an outstanding marching band. I've marched on their field a million times, for
Nanette
state
Moore
championships.
is their director. I think she's been there since the 70s.
Yeah, no kidding. I actually got to meet her not too long ago. I was playing a gig out in it used to be I think it's the Paddock Shops now or whatever. It used to be the old Summit.
Okay.
Way out in like East End.
Yeah.
And I was playing, and I had my 1960s Superphonic Ludwig snare, which is a very famous snare, if you know anything about it, one of the most recorded in history. And she came up to me and she said, "I want to meet you." And I said, "Well, hi, my name's Jen Yates." And she goes, "Man, that snare sound." She goes, "Is that a Superphonic?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sure is." And she goes, I knew it. And I could tell she knew her stuff because she knew exactly what I was playing. And then she said, "Where'd you go to school?" And then I said, "Adair County." She goes, "Oh, Tim Allen." And she knew my band director. And she goes, "Well, it makes sense. You're a great drummer, And so I got
Is
to
she a
meet
drummer?
her. I don't know if she was a drummer, but she definitely knew what snare drum I was playing, which was
That's
kind of
amazing.
interesting. I know, right? Yeah. I've got a huge snare drum collection. I love to collect snares, but I usually don't deviate from the Ludwig Superphonic or the Acrolite from the 60s because it just doesn't get any better. The only other thing I would want other than those two is a Black Beauty.
Wow.
Yeah, and those are super expensive.
Now, we had a guy in town that used to make drums, John Woods. Did
Yeah.
you ever hear of him?
Yes, I've heard of John Woods.
I've won one of his piccolo snares at a Murph benefit.
You
one year.
did?
Yeah, It's in
Wow.
a drummer's closet someplace.
No
but-
kidding. Wow. And some random drummer.
Well,
I
no,
wish it was in my closet. I was going to
Don't
say.
worry, we'll get it in your closet one of these days.
I don't go in my closet often. If you know anything about me, I'm quite out of the closet. Wait, I need my ba-bump. I don't have my sound effects today. My iPad decided to be weird. Yeah. So Janet, how did you end up? You did some DCI work, did you not?
1982. I was in racer band, and I knew a lot of people that marched drum corps at
Yeah.
Murray State.
Just so our listeners know, DCI is short for Drum Corps Internationals. It's the professional marching band.
Yeah.
So you can go on outside of college and get hired to be a professional drummer in Drum Corps
No,
International.
you have to pay over $3,000 a year.
What?
Basically, these
Wait,
days.
what? Wait,
You didn't
back
know
up.
that?
Breaks.
No.
Go backwards for a second. No, I did not know anything about that.
Oh, the
Well, that makes me
tuition.
glad that I didn't try out for it.
Well, back in my day, it wasn't
Yeah.
over $500 or $600, but now the expenses of going on the road, the price of gas, all the instruments, all the production costs to pay the best staff.
Yeah.
You have to pay.
Wait,
to
you
march.
have to pay to be in Drum Corps Internationals? That seems so scandalous.
You do what you do for your passion, you know. If you really want to do it, all right.
Okay.
I'll pay the money.
I mean, I guess it's like releasing a record, you know. I mean,
It's
in an interesting way,
It's
you pay
kinda-
to put your art out there.
Torture because you sleep on high school gym floors.
Yeah, no.
You're practicing.
I'm a
in the
slightly more
heat.
bougie than sleeping on a gym floor.
Oh, I know you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, practicing 8 hours a day. It's a hard summer,
Well,
and it's the best time of your life.
I agree with that, but what is the benefit then of? I mean, you just for your own self worth, or I guess I want to know, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Is that the top of the top? You know,
A lot of people become teachers.
I could see that.
You know, a lot of it is DCI finals week. This is the world championship week.
Yeah, tell us about that. Are the Blue Coats in? Did you see the Blue Coats thing the other day?
Yes, of
Okay.
course I did.
Of course, I'm a huge Blue Devils fan. Blue Devils were always my marching band. They're the jazz group, you know, and that we did at Adair County. We did a lot of their jazz pieces.
I loved their jazz standards. La Suerte de los Tontos.
Mm-hmm. We did this one called Rainforest once, which I love. I think it was a Blue Devils performance, but as a drummer and a percussionist in the pit, I got to play some of the coolest things. I got to play bird whistles. I really learned how to play. You know, with bird whistles, they're an interesting thing to play. You have to fill them with water, and you have to tilt them just at a certain angle for the water and the air to go through together. And you have to do it exactly right, or the bird whistle sound does not come out.
Oh, that's a lot of stress.
Yeah, it is. And I just recently did Godspell. Slide whistles are very similar. Whistles are interesting things. It's not just like a coach whistle where you just blow the whistle and it always works. It's got the little ball in it that vibrates. But the slide whistle, you know, the one that you pull out that does the woo.
Yep.
Same way, if you don't hold your embouchure.
There you go. You're using your words.
Oh, embouchure, girl. I got to know all about the embouchure with the clarinet. I learned all about the holding the embouchure the right way. You hold your embouchure a certain way, and you have to blow through your mouth a certain way, air out, or it will not fire. You know, there are just certain instruments that are like that, and it seems like percussion gets that a lot, you know, especially pit. But I just really remember getting to play bird whistles and all kinds of really interesting, you know, things and do some really cool stuff. Anyway, I love marching band. I love DCI. I could talk to you all day. Who's your favorite?
This year it's the Blue Coats because they're doing a Beatles show. You don't have to think too hard. You can just sit back and listen to your favorite Beatles being just explored on that marching band field.
I love that. That's so cool. Did you march snare, or what did you play exactly?
Color guard.
You were color guard?
All right. So I was in racer band in '82, and all my friends were marching drum corps, and I knew they don't let clarinet players in drum corps.
Well, yeah.
Even to this day.
Mm-hmm. That's so strange to me because high schools are marching with woodwinds.
That's what separates it.
By the way, have you seen back in your day, they marched xylophones on the field.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. The xylos are all up in the front in the pit.
And sometimes now they're putting them staged in the middle of the field.
I saw that, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, I go back and forth. They're always trying to do something new and flashy and crazy, you know, and once I start to see electronic instruments up in the drum corps, I'm like, I don't know about all that. Yeah. I'm a little bit more old school with my
we have to get progressive, though.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty liberal. You know, I'm about as liberal as they come when it comes to stuff like that. So
I was marching with all these drum corps folks in my college band. I had a girl teach me a flag routine just so I could hold a flag to get through an audition.
You were a flag girl. I love that.
And I auditioned in the Stone in the Pride of Cincinnati. They used to be a drum and bugle corps.
Yeah.
And they took pity on me and gave me a chance, and
Yeah.
Off I went.
Is the Indianapolis Star still around, or Indy Star?
Star of Indiana.
Star of Indiana?
No, they folded in the 90s.
They folded too? Wow. And you know who else was another favorite of mine?
Who's that?
The Velvet Knights. Do you remember those cats?
Oh, of course I do.
Okay, the Velvet Knights were the coolest band out there because...
They wore red chucks.
Yeah, they wore red chucks. They had those little, like, whirlwind hats that you could twirl the little thingy at the top.
Yeah, the little beanies.
Yeah, the beanies with the little twirly propellers on top. And then they always had an Energizer Bunny costume character who was carrying around a bass drum on the field. It seemed like it would always come through.
That.
Oh yeah, you need to go back and YouTube that, because I just remember laughing as a kid, thinking that was the coolest thing ever. And they really were. They were like the cool band that did fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else was like super serious, and here they come with their chucks and like, and they're playing like rock and roll, and I don't know. I just loved the Velvet Knights. They were really cool. I don't know if they're still around, but they were so fun.
No, it's hard. There's when I marched Pride of Cincinnati, it was hard to get in the top 30 drum corps.
Well, yeah.
And now there's like 20 or 25 that can compete.
Well, the top fives, I mean, the Blue Devils are always up there. The Cadets.
Sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. They used to be big winners, though, back in the day all the time. Blue Coats, obviously. Who else do we have left?
Santa Clara Vanguard.
Santa Clara Vanguard. They've been around forever. Yes.
Carolina Crown.
The Carolina Crown. I remember them, too.
Now, have you seen much drum corps lately?
I catch it online. I follow all the DCI, and I try to follow as much of them as possible, but I'm not for sure. Is somebody, like, vacuuming? I'm like... There's no carpet out there.
I was wondering myself.
Yeah. We broadcast live from the Launch Louisville studios. I guess they're out there, like, cleaning up, leftover French fries or something. Who knows?
Tonight, if you go to Tinseltown at 6:30, they're doing DCI in the theaters, so you can see it. You didn't know they did this
No, you're like
either?
a walking encyclopedia of DCI. Tell me all about it. If you go to Tinseltown,
it's 6:30
I love
Tinseltown.
Tinseltown.
You can see it's finals week. It's
Okay.
the last of the championships.
Okay.
Saturday's the finals, tomorrow's semifinals. So tonight you can go to the theater and watch it on the big screen with really loud sound.
Oh wow!
I might
if
have
I could
to
only,
kidnap you.
I was gonna say if I could only find a girl who would be interested in DCI. I think I have a couple days later tonight. Oh, man. Well, anyway. Well, that is so cool. If you go to Tinseltown tonight, what time does that start? 7?
6:30.
6:30, okay. 6:30 p.m., you can watch DCI. And is that the finals there?
No, the finals, you can go up the road to Indy, to the Lucas Oil Stadium.
Oh, I've marched there. I've gotten to march at the Lucas Oil Stadium. In fact, I got to march the RCA Dome before they tore it down, too.
Band of America?
Yeah, Band of America. Yeah, Dare County always did Band of America. We won, too.
I know.
We won every year I was there. We were never defeated at all in my entire stint with them. Of course, they were also undefeated prior to me coming in. So when I was there, my last year, we won our 10th consecutive, state championship. We also won national championships in Bands of America. Yeah, and I got to march all over, and I love that. I got to march on the Capitol at Washington, D.C.
I played handbells in the Capitol with my church choir.
You did?
In the 70s.
Wow, that's super cool. I always like to laugh and say my church. I always tried to sing in church choir, and then they moved me to handbells. They were like, no.
Oh, I loved handbells. I taught handbell choirs, too, actually.
You did?
Sure, of course.
Wow, I love handbells. That gives me cold chills because I love me some handbells. Ding, ding.
They're awesome.
I love the technique of handbells and the deadening them against your chest and all that cool stuff. Yeah. In my church growing up, we did not have drums. We only had piano and organ, and we had a church choir, and then we had handbells. That was it. There was no other musical instruments in my church.
Our church choir went on 2-week trips every summer. We were a church in St. Matthews, and our director would take us to Canada. We'd been to the Bahamas my senior year.
Yeah.
And we would go travel and sing at churches and then take a few days off to learn new music.
Yeah.
And we were so lucky to have that experience.
Yeah, it sounds
It was
like
almost as cool as drum corps, except with my church choir.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's just as cool. I don't think it gets any better than a church choir that's great, and a church choir that's, I don't want to say, do you know who Eddie Izzard is?
No.
Oh, he's a famous comedian, and he's always talking about how when sometimes you go to these white churches and they sing, hallelujah. He's always like, they just sing hallelujah like they're dying. If the church is the opposite of that, I'm all about it. Like, I love a black gospel choir that's going crazy, and I like the energy and the spirit, the movement of the spirit.
Oh, I agree with that too. I go to this church that's pretty fired up.
Yeah. Good. What church is it?
Awesome.
What church is it?
On Fire Christian Center.
On Fire Christian Center. And where is that? Is that here in Louisville?
New Cut Road. I've been hanging out there over 2.5 years.
On Fire. I think I know where that is. Is it over the railroad tracks right there on the left?
Sure it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How is that church? Are they pretty groovy there, or?
They're awesome.
Okay.
I've been through some rough times, and that church has a good, intense energy, and you feed off of it, and you learn, and you grow.
Do they have a baptismal that's just like a big round tub? Is it a physical?
It's kind of square tub.
Okay, but it's not just like they set a pool right up the front?
No.
Okay.
No,
making
it's
sure.
dug in. They dig baptismals into churches
Oh,
now.
yeah. Well, my church had a dug-in baptismal. You had to go all back through these flies. In fact, you had to go through the organ pipe things up in the... Yeah, my church was like a big maze. And when I was a kid, we would love to like run around because there was all kinds of nooks and crannies and places that you'd never even know about if you crawl spaces and all kinds of cool things.
Yeah, good places to hide.
Absolutely. And we were always playing hide and seek and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was in the youth, the youth church or the youth groups and stuff like that. And we always did cool things together. And I was really involved in my church when I was younger. But yeah, in order to get baptized, and I got baptized at the Columbia Baptist Church when I was about, my guess is probably 11 or 12, maybe 13. I came to on my own, up to the front and dedicated my life. And then the next following week, they basically take us behind the flies up through all these like weaving, things, and then you come down into the baptismal, which was a big, huge thing of water. It was built into the church. There was a glass, the glass was in the front.
So everybody could see it.
Yeah, and then we came down in white robes, and then the pastor said his thing, and he dunked me, and then I did, And my mom loves to tell the story about her baptismal. She was baptized in Casey County in a creek, and she said there was a snake in the water, and she was terrified, but she baptized, got baptized anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah, because back in the day, they used to do it in creeks and rivers. They didn't really have the baptismals in the church. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like in the really old days. John the Baptist was in a river, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or a sea.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, enough about church, but that's really cool. I don't know how we took that little turn there, but
we did.
Oh, you were talking about your church on New Cut, yeah. Anyway, so DCI, you've done literally almost everything concerning music. We're gonna take a short break, but when we come back, we're gonna talk about all the bands you've been affiliated with over the years. You've introduced me to a ton of bands I didn't even know existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So stay tuned. I've got Janet Wolfe, or as we call her, Janet Planet, here on LRS 102.com. I'm Jen Yates, and you're locked on to Jyneration Nation. It's Chumbawamba with Tub Thumping. 38 special with Hold On Loosely. You gotta love that, don't you? You like that? Yeah, I asked you what kind of rock and roll you liked, and you said 60s. And then you said jazz, and I was like, we cannot play jazz on this station. We are LRS. We are rock and roll for a reason. Yes. Oh, man, we've talked about a little bit of everything. Your church got me fired up. I said, did they like gays at your church? And she said, not really. And I said, whoa, I don't think I should go then. Isn't that horrible? There's a lot of great churches around here, though, that support the gays, and most of them are right here in the Highlands. Also, the Unitarian Church downtown. Tracy Patton, who I love, Pastor Tracy Patton, had her on the show not too long ago. She just got a new church today. So,
all right.
Yay! Yeah, they had been renting a space for their church for a long time, and they finally raised the funds and got them a brand new, beautiful church over in New Albany. So I literally saw her put up the sign this morning, and I said, congratulations, it's gorgeous, and you are so deserving of that.
It's
so.
a month of new beginnings, August.
Yeah.
Number separate. It's a time for all that good stuff.
It's also, though, eclipse season, which means all hell breaks loose. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
almost over. It's all good
We
now.
still got a couple weeks of it. So and we've got some plans in retrograde. So if you are doing anything quite like, anything big, you need to wait just a minute because it ain't over yet, honey. Not until September. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Janet, you've done literally everything. You're a female drummer. You've done DCI, Drum Corps Internationals. You've done, you were a music major, correct?
Music education. I
music
taught high
education.
school band. I even taught band.
Yeah.
Show choirs.
What band did you teach? Was that here in Louisville?
No, my first year I was in Todd County, Kentucky.
Todd
which
County,
is
Kentucky.
Real close to Christian County.
Christian
Hopkinsville.
County. Yeah, Hopkinsville. Yeah, Hoptown, man. I love it down through there. Yeah.
It was funny because my tuba player would never come to practice because he had a tobacco field. So they don't teach you that in music
I grew up
school.
stripping tobacco, by the way. I grew up in a tobacco
See,
field.
So you know. Oh wait, we hit a. There was a big Amish community.
Yeah. Oh, there's a huge Amish community where I'm from. I'm from Adair, so it's not too far from Todd County, but
right.
I'm South Central. Obviously you know that. Yeah, but when I see these like 11 to 13-year-olds today that are lazy as all get out, and their parents are taking them and buying them new shoes, and they're doing all. I was like, man, I was stripping. I was in a cold barn, like freezing myself, no television, no cell phones, having to strip tobacco for $12 an hour to raise money to buy shoes for myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, so I have no sympathy for some of these young kids that are just running wild and crazy these days. Man, can you imagine having a child right now, like a young child? Do you have any grandchildren?
No, I don't even have any kids.
I
have
didn't
a
think
dog.
so. You have a dog, right? Well, better, good for you. Because they have access to literally everything at the touch of their fingers, just like we do.
I'd barely take care of myself. I would not do good with kids. They would have dirty diapers.
Real quick, did you make the decision early on not to have children, or just could you not have children? Did you make a choice that you were not going to have kids?
Wow, weird question.
Yeah, I'm curious for my own personal.
I don't think I can have children,
Okay.
is what I was told.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And it's hard to find a good person that I want to commit to for my life.
Yeah.
know?
Well, as a musician, I feel like that is incredibly hard, period.
Oh, yeah. I used to only date musicians, actually. That's why I'm still single.
Oh, yeah, I can't date musicians.
Oh, I do.
I made that rule a long time ago when a band broke up, that I was somebody I was dating in it, and I said, yeah, never again will I put myself through this.
You know, the last person I dated was Van Buren from Mom's Music.
Oh,
You
I
knew
know
him.
Van Buren.
Yeah.
He passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, about 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, man, I loved him. He was so cool. Yeah. He played rock and roll, man. He was a rocker.
In the 80s hair bands.
He
played with REM and Driving and Crying.
Yeah. I got to open up for Driving and Crying. I think he actually was in that then. I can't remember. Maybe like 10, 12, 15 years ago here. It was at Headliners. Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of Driving and Crying. So, anyway, rest in peace, Van Buren, man. Yeah. Rest in peace, Sue Riley. Rest in peace, Dave Hassenfeld. Rest in peace, Beverly McClellan. We've lost so many musicians, the list could go on for days, you know what I mean? And there's so many musicians here that I don't even know because I did not grow up here. I didn't come here until 99, so it's just, it's tough when you lose your musicians,
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I used to promote musicians. I used to bring this jazz trumpet player to town, Willie Waldman. Mm-hmm. He had a huge black book. And like the musicians that I knew from Memphis, Calvin Newborn, Phineas Newborn was his brother. Herman Green is a saxophone player that played with the real Miles Davis. I mean, they were good pals.
Wow. Tony Williams is one of my all-time favorite drummers who is with Miles Davis. Witch's Brew, all that stuff, I don't know. Have you ever watched his stuff? He's now also since passed.
No, I have not.
I put him in the top 2 drummers of all time. In my opinion, he was a jazz cat, but man, he's just one of those guys that you watch him and you have no clue what he's doing. You can't even find his one. You know what I mean? He's just that mind-blowing. And he didn't have to be playing with anybody else. I think he blew Miles Davis's mind, too, probably.
Wow. There's 3 drummers that I just love to death.
Who are they?
All right. First of all is Tony Austin. He plays with Kamasi Washington.
Right. Okay.
Have you ever heard of Kamasi?
I have heard of Kamasi Washington.
All right. Tony Austin's even been doing work on my house before because Willie does home construction as well as playing gigs to make some money.
Yeah.
Then there's my friend Vinny, Amico, and Mo. I love him. He's the most solid dude I've ever met.
Yeah, and you know him personally. Didn't you help bring them here or something like that? Or y'all have been friends for a long time or something? There's some connection there.
He's even, because he used to play with Willie. He's even cooked in my house before.
Cool.
I think he's just one of the greatest people I know.
Well, hook that up and get me an interview with that because I would love to talk to him. They've been playing all over the world for a long time.
He's amazing.
Mo. That's the name of the band. M-O-E. Mo.
Mm-hmm. Went to see him last November. I hadn't seen him in a few years.
Yeah.
It was an awesome night.
Wow. That's super rad. And who's the third?
Stephen Perkins of Jane's Addiction.
Oh, yeah.
He had a jam band called Banyan that he did with my trumpet player, Willie.
Okay.
And he's amazing. He's like a kid in a candy store when he plays.
Yeah. You know, we had, Dawn Richardson. Dawn Richardson was on our show last week. She did a call-in. She's the female drummer for 4 Non-Blondes. That song, What's Going On? Mm-hmm. She's on that track. She's on every 4 Non-Blondes track. She played with Linda Perry for years. She's now in a female band out in San Francisco with Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was talking about doing a lot of work with Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction. Dave Navarro, her, and Linda Perry do the Misty Mountain Hop 4 Non-Blondes cover of Led Zeppelin, which, have you heard that?
No.
All right, we'll spin it here in a minute.
All right.
It's one of my all-time favorite Led Zeppelin cover songs.
All right.
And it's just the 3 of them. And I asked her at the time, I said, Dawn, are you on all these like covers that 4 Non-Blondes did of Zeppelin? And she goes, oh yeah, every single one of them.
Wow.
And I said, well, my favorite is Misty Mountain Hop. And she said, oh yeah, we didn't have a guitarist at that time. It was just me and Linda Perry. And then she said, so we hired Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction. And I was like, wow, super rad, man. She's cool. She follows me on social media. We go back and forth all the time. We met through mutual friends when I was out in L.A. And, I was a huge fan of hers. She's also a drum educator, a teacher. She's traveled the world, done some really cool things. She's on a major hit record, What's Going On by 4 Non-Blondes, or What's Up, whatever you want to call it. That's just a song that holds up over time. And I was telling her that I feel like that is the new standard because it doesn't matter what girl band I'm in. It doesn't matter what band I'm in. You go to any club and you're going to get a request for that one.
Right.
Yeah. And everybody wants to sing it, and it's literally 3 chords the whole way through.
Yep.
So me and Bev used to play all the time. And, of course, Bev had gotten to work with Linda Perry.
Oh, okay.
Via Christina Aguilera.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She got to go to Linda Perry's studio and record Beautiful with Christina Aguilera as a duet because Linda Perry wrote that song.
My mouth is ajar right now.
I could tell you stories all day, girl, and they're all true. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway. Yeah, so anyway, it goes back to the Jane's Addiction drummer. Yeah, super cool. Well, I love all of those. I don't have obscure ones. I have pretty normal, standard. You could ask. I love Tony Williams. Obviously, I love John Bonham from Zeppelin. Studied everything he did. Steve Gadd's one of my favorites. Bernard Purdy is one of my favorites. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Hal Blaine.
The guy from Journey.
Yeah, Steve Smith.
There you go.
Yeah, I saw him last year. I went to see Journey last year with Def Leppard. And I'm a huge fan of both of them. Mm-hmm. Def Leppard went on first. They were amazing. They sounded exactly like their records. I'm a huge Rick Allen fan. He's the one-arm drummer. I often laugh and say with my arm damage that I'm probably going to end up being the one-arm drummer, and I could possibly be a replacement for or a fill-in for Def Leppard. Yeah, but he does all the cool the footwork stuff. They invented kick drum pedals just because of that guy.
I never knew that.
Yes, they did. A lot of those electronic pedals. Have you ever seen him play live?
No.
Oh, you got to. He's one-armed, right? And he basically does most everything with his feet, basically. So if you look at and I've sat really close to him when he played, like literally a couple rows over. He has like 6 to 8 pedals on the left side with his hi-hat foot, and then he's got a couple with the right, and each of them do something different. They make a different sound. Like one might be a snare sound, one might be a double kick sound, one might be a cowbell, one might be something else. And he does all these like crazy foot solos, and it's just amazing to watch. Watch him overcome, I guess injury, and then take it to the next level. But back in the 80s when all that happened, he had just literally, they didn't have a lot of those electronic pedals, so a lot of those were invented for him, from what I understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a hand sonic, a Roland hand sonic? Have you ever played with those?
I have played with a hand sonic when I was at Mom's Music. I used the Yamaha DTX series, which is a drum interface pad that has 12 different pads on it. I can sample, I can loop, I can program it to literally be any sound. It's got a USB port on it, so any sound I can take off of a computer, I can put onto that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of cool electronic stuff. I even had the early on those Simmons Octagon pads that like Phil Collins had. And,
okay.
Yeah, I've got a lot of the early electronics. I was always an electronic geek. Okay. My dad was big into electronics, so I mean, this radio show in itself is kind of interesting because when me and my sister were kids, we would sit around and we would do radio shows on cassette tapes, and I was DJ Jazzy Jen and she was the Fresh Caroline, and we used to make these cassette tapes for my aunt and uncle who had all these boats and stuff, and they would take their friends on the boats and they would put in our cassette tape and jam them the whole way. They jammed them so much they're worn out now, which I prayed that I would still have a copy of those cassette tapes, but I don't. But we would like overdub laughter and everything, and we would tell jokes and then put that in there. I mean, we were just kind of like geeky kids with technology.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is prior to major computers for anybody who's listening who is 20 and under. Or maybe 30 and under these days, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of those people listening, these young ones, they don't even understand a life without a cell phone or a life without a computer.
I am not a techie at all. I'm not good even playing keyboards. I've played in a couple of bands, How do I get juice out of this?
But you're a music teacher.
Yeah, but electronics, no.
Yeah.
No.
It always fascinates me that music teachers, they usually can play just about anything. Like my music professor, Tim Allen, he was a horn guy. He played clarinet, or a horn. He did not play clarinet. He played trumpet, cornet is what I was trying to say. And trombone and sousaphone and stuff like that. But he didn't really play a lot of woodwinds. I feel like you've got to play almost everything a little bit.
That's what you have to in
Yeah,
school. You
if you're a
have to
music
take
teacher,
your
right.
percussion class, your strings class. Strings class was hard for me.
I can't imagine string class. The
Violin,
only strings I can
viola,
play is rhythm guitar, and that's only first positions, and that's as much as I get into the strings.
Yeah, I'm not good at guitar either.
Yeah. We had Cheyenne Mize on day before yesterday, and she is one of the top, I consider her one of the top violinists around town. She's also a fiddle player. She toured with Bonnie Prince Billy, Will Oldham. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's toured around. She's getting ready to leave to go to Dublin to study music, and, not study music. She's going to a university over there for a year. She is a music therapist that's in all these hospitals that does music therapy. And healing for people and stuff. And she's going to be studying dementia specifically and how music affects dementia and helps with dementia.
If I wanted to go back to school, it would have been in music therapy because I know the power of what music can do to your soul.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it change kids' lives who were autistic or had tics or I've got a guy with brain cancer right now that's really interesting to teach. I've seen it change lives completely. It's changed my life, so I'm living it firsthand. Me too. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I think I would probably go back to college. If I wanted to go get a master's, I probably would do it in music therapy.
All right, we'll go to school. We'll be roommates.
I will go back to college. I've gone back to college 3 times now.
Oh.
Yeah, because I studied music early on. I went to school to study music. That was my first major.
Where'd you go?
Campbellsville University.
All right.
And I played in the pit. I was the timpani player and the mallets, and I was, I really loved the marching band, but it always cracks me up. I love to tell this story. I lived on campus during this time. was my first year away from home, and I wasn't really that far away from home. I was still, a small drive, but still, I wasn't at home. I was already living on my own by this time anyway, but I played in the pit, and every morning, you always have to get up early to start those band camps and stuff like that.
Way too early for me.
Yeah. And is it horrible? I can't even remember my professor's name at this point, the band director. I can see his face, but I cannot remember his name. Either way, we had to get out on the field at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing he would make us do to warm up was to dance to the chicken song.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
The chicken dance.
Yeah, the chicken dance where you do the do.
Yeah, my friend Wendy taught me
and then
that
you dance
thing.
around, and then you cha or whatever. I don't even remember half of it, but getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing that on a football field.
That's a little obscene. I wouldn't like it either.
I also played flag football on that same field, yeah. And I went to college on a scholarship for music as well as softball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a great time back then. I loved the pit. I always wanted to be in the drum line, but I was always in the pit, and I'm thankful now that I was, because I learned marimbas and xylophones and vibraphones and all kinds of cool things like that. But yeah, so after that, I left and went to Western Kentucky University.
All right, that's where my sister went.
All right, I went to the Glasgow branch, and I studied communications and music as well, and had a lot of great classes there. At the same time, I was trying to get my EMT license, which did not turn out the way that I wanted it to turn out. I just could not stomach that job, and then I was like, whoa, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this after the ride time hour things.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah. So job, I got hired for working for WBKI, which ended up being a Warner Brothers affiliate, and that brought me to Louisville. They paid for me to come here.
It was right off of, are they still there?
I think they are. It's not the one that used to be there, though. We used to be off of Blankenbaker.
I remember.
Yeah, right by Sam's there.
Yeah, because I always used to work back in that part of town.
Yeah. Well, I loved it back then. There was about 60 employees. I was there for a long time. I was an on-air director and operator, and also an audio-video editor for them. Did a lot of voiceover work, and then ended up leaving that and going back into radio, where I worked at LRS before they went under. And
no way.
Oh, yeah, I worked at LRS right before they went under. I didn't tell you how I got this job?
No.
Here we go. You ready for it?
Sure.
All right. I worked in classical country radio from the time I was 16 until the time I went into Warner Brothers and the time they moved me here, which was 99. Mm-hmm. After that, I went back into radio. I worked for Radio 1 at LRS. I was always a rock and roller. I knew more about rock and roll than any other style except for classic old country. So I was all excited. I was there. They come in, they announce the station's going under, and they moved me over to B96.5, where I work under Mark Gunn in the Russ Parr Morning Show for hip-hop, which was like dropping like Snoop Dogg and Sierra and all these other,
I know
hip-hop
some Snoop
artists.
people. I know.
Yeah. I just remember like Drop It Like It's Hot, Drop It Like It's Hot was like the number one song at the time. That and Goodies by Sierra. Because the one where she's all skating in the video and stuff, So I was like, okay, well, a job's a job. And I got some cool experience. I got to go to Baltimore. I got to meet Russ Parr. I got to study under his production radio college. Did some really cool things with Mark Gunn, and I love Mark Gunn, and he still loves me. He's also a great drummer, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, my boss back then. So, and we're still great friends on social media and whatnot. But anyway, the station ended up going under. I went into political news, which was the dumbest move I could have made.
Ooh, that would give you heartburn.
It about killed me. That was back when Bush Jr. years were in, and Northup, Bernie Fletcher, all those cats were in. McConnell was still in. I was having to work with his people, Wasn't my favorite job.
No.
I did learn how to stay non-biased for things and be professional.
Good thing.
And I ended up getting promoted to news bureau chief there, which was the highest position you could have.
All right.
So I was making all kinds of money in my 20s. And then finally, at 30 years old, they laid me off with a severance. And I kind of, at that point, I'd been teaching music out of Mom's Music on the side because I was about to just take the leap and be like, I'm going to go pursue my dream. At that moment, I realized the money is not as important as my time.
Ooh, there you go.
And I gave up the money and took the job teaching. And I said, I'm going to pursue what I love and not what is going to pay the bills. And I took a chance, And I've made more money off of teaching music than I probably ever made in radio.
I watch your videos of your kids, and I am in awe of what you teach them.
Thank you.
Music teachers really, I think, are one of the most important jobs we could have.
Yes, and the most underpaid jobs ever.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I'm thankful I teach privately and not in these schools where these pensions are getting taken away and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
Sad. It's very sad. They have a shortage of teachers this year in Kentucky.
I know.
And we wonder why. Look at our government.
I'm not brave enough to teach. I was not a good disciplinarian.
Mm-hmm.
I know that kids are meaner than me. I've had a fourth grader slap me before. And it was at a private school, and they didn't let me
I've never had a kid punch me.
Oh, yeah.
I would not stand for that.
So after that, I'm like, no, I guess I'll go into customer service and just tell people what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's wild. I teach privately, so I feel like I don't have to deal with that. I teach one-on-one. Most every kid I've had in the past 12 years has been fantastic.
And you fire them up. You give them joy, and you share that passion with them, and then
we have fun. I am a kid. I'm a kid on the inside. I always have had a childlike spirit about me. And I always loved kids. I always, just loved kids. I always wanted to be around them. I think they're funny because they're so honest.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty brutally honest when it comes to things. So I think kids just crack me up. They just make me laugh. Even if they're like, you're ugly, I'm like, it just makes me laugh. The kids, they don't know what they're saying. No. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I wanted to go back and finish the story about, so I come in now to the current LRS to be interviewed by Hippie Head about the Hillbilly Swagger record that I dropped.
Yeah.
And he goes, Skinny J was like, hey, I trained you on the board back in the day. And I was like, yeah, you did at LRS way back in the day. And they're like, do you need a job? Because we need a female DJ, or we want a DJ, a female girl or something. I can't remember. But either way, he offered me 2 to 4 my own show to do whatever. And I said, okay. So now I'm doing both.
I love it. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I truly am.
I've
been watching you for over 10 years
now. Long time. And you've seen me go through every band that I've ever been in, pretty much. All the band breakups, all the girlfriends,
it's like a divorce when your band breaks up.
Oh, to me, it's not a divorce, it's a death. I talked about this a lot because I just lost my bass player, Sue Riley, of 12 years.
I used to do gigs with her at Willow Lake Tavern 15 years ago.
Okay, so you've known her as long as I have.
Yeah.
I felt like, and this is kind of sad to say, but it's very honest and very raw and true for me. I felt like when my band broke up with her, that it was a death between me and the 3 of them, which is sad. They didn't technically die, but to me it felt like a death. So I feel like in some weird way, praise God, that it padded her actual death for me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, because you already had
I already had let it go. Right. And I felt like I lost my singer. I felt like I lost my keyboardist. I felt like it was a death to me.
She was such a solid bass player.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
And took me in when I was almost homeless last year.
That's a good girl.
She's an angel girl. She was an angel. She was one of my angels. And like I said, I saw her last night. She woke me up. Isn't that wild?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Life gets weird.
It does get weird. I kind of love it, though. You know what I mean? Because I don't like it when it's down. And there's been some real down moments over the past year. But I feel like, I'm still here for a reason, obviously. And I am an angel in some people's lives. Some people can think whatever they want. But what other people think of me is none of my business. Nor do I care, anymore. I just kind of...
I'm just getting to this point because people, kind of, look, oh, she's a little weird.
I've been called weird my whole life. You know what I mean? And yes, I am weird. I've always been weird about my gender. I've always been weird about my insides being different than my outsides. I don't think like everybody else. A lot of people think I'm very cocky. But I don't think it's cocky. I'm very humble when you actually meet me and talk to me. I feel like it's confidence that scares them off. And I feel like the stronger you are as a female, the more intimidated the weak ones are of you.
That makes sense.
It is. And the weak ones are the ones that are sitting behind you calling you names and saying they're going to beat you up and all this stuff and hiding behind social media saying all this. But when you're in their face, they sure won't say nothing.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
They're
really
weak.
hard to be authentic, and just wear your own shoes.
Amen.
And follow your own truth,
a
whatever
woman,
that is.
A woman. I like to say that, yeah. Yeah, it is hard to follow your own truth, but you know what? I'm never going to be less than real because I don't know any other way to be, and I feel like I want authenticity in people, so if I don't give them authenticity, that they're not going to give me that back. I'm not going to lie to people because I don't want people lying to me. You know what I mean? I want to do good deeds for the world. That's how you reap great benefits. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. And I really have tried to start watching this, the positivity level, surrounding myself with people who are positive, who have a positive outlook on life, because I'm tired of being around the negative. I don't want to be around the negative. They're so downer and soul sucking. I call them energy vampires.
I'm
is what they are.
very sensitive to others people's energy, and so I put
empathic. They call that empathic.
Yeah, I am an empath, and so I like my private space because I can't deal with the negative energy people bring to me. So I stay at home with my dog.
All right. So on a separate level, have you ever? This is my coffee from this morning. Do you ever use the pasta straws?
No.
Do you know what a pasta straw is?
Where did you get that?
Highland Coffee, my favorite place in the world, in the Highlands. It's
Do you
my
eat
favorite
the straw?
coffee. No, you don't eat the straw. So here's the thing. They're trying to save the environment, which I love. I'm a huge green thumb, and I'm all about picking up trash when you see it and like making the world a better place and making taking care of Mother Nature for your future generations.
Yes.
Which scares me to death because I'm afraid we're going to be wiped out soon, and all the Christians don't care because they think we're going to hell. They think we're going to blow it up with some fire and all this stuff, which could be true with global warming. But the pasta straws. So they're trying to save the environment. They don't want to make the actual straws, so they give you a straw made of pasta, which is biodegradable, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I love this, and I always do it, but about halfway through my coffee, my iced coffee here, the straws break off because this gets all soft and noodly. Isn't that hilarious?
That's weird.
Yeah, they also have paper straws, and my niece is a huge fan. I love my little niece, Shea Butter, I call her. She is big on saving the turtles because they also help the environment with not like polluting the water and stuff like that. For the turtles eat it and then they die and they, all this stuff. So they also are now making. I had to take her. Me and my mother took her to get her a special straw, and it wasn't. It seems like it was made of like tin or something like that. It was kind of made of metal of some sort.
There's metal with bamboo straws.
Yeah, exactly. It's a metal straw that you can like pull out, and it like goes long like some kind of go-go gadget thing, and then all of a sudden you can drink your stuff, and then you can clean the straw out and you keep it,
Right, yeah.
So that you don't have to keep doing the plastic straws.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Heck yeah, me too, except I'm going to have to take 2 pasta straws every time I want to drink my coffee.
Now, does the pasta make your coffee taste funny?
Not that I can tell.
All right.
Not that I can tell. Somebody just told me to try the pasta straws instead of the paper straws, which, so I was like, okay, I'm all about the environment. I'm a Virgo. I'm a green thumb. I'm an earth sign. I love the earth.
Okay, yeah.
What are you?
Scorpio.
November?
Yes.
No wonder I like you. I love a Scorpio. Scorpios are so cool. Y'all are so emotional, though.
Oh,
you're the water sign. You're the water sign, the emotional sign.
It's hard to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, but y'all all have a little bit of darkness to you, which I kind of love,
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just enough, to keep you cool and groovy. All right, so Miss Janet, let's get back to the music. You've done all kinds of cool stuff. We've talked about Mo a little bit. I know you're heavily affiliated with jam bands and such like that. Tell me a little bit more about how you got into the jam band scene.
My first Grateful Dead concert.
I was going to say you're a deadhead like me, aren't you?
1985, Riverbend, Ohio. Yeah,
Riverbend,
I saw my first
Ohio.
Dead show.
In 85?
The guy who was the walrus, his little brother Tim, is the one that took me to that show. That's why I love Kenny Lions.
Okay.
Those boys were awesome.
Rock and roll, man. Is that before Touch of Grey? Because Touch of Grey came out in the 90s, didn't it?
Yeah, it's before all that. It wasn't cool to go see the Grateful Dead in the mid-'80s.
Really?
It wasn't very crowded, no.
Wow, can I tell you the coolest story? I heard this yesterday.
Sure.
All right, so I'm teaching this older guy. He's got cancer and whatnot, and he is a huge Grateful Dead fan. In fact, he was at the 1968 Bellarmine concert that the Grateful Dead put on here, and he gave me a copy of all the tracks that they recorded live here in Louisville at Bellarmine.
You've got that in your library?
Yes, I do.
Ooh.
I've got it in my personal collection. Yeah. The coolest thing about having this job is people bring me tracks from everywhere. You know, it's like I just accumulate tracks. It's nuts. But anyway, he's a big old Grateful Dead head. He went to, is it Loyola? I can never say it. It's the college down in New Orleans.
Loyola.
I can never say that. Yeah. La. Too many L's for me. He went to see the Grateful Dead down there, and I think he said it was either late 70s or early 80s. It was one, somewhere around in there. He went to see the Grateful Dead. Well, they got arrested that night for smoking pot on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
And the next day, he hitchhikes. He's trying to hitchhike back to his spot, and he puts his thumb out, and somebody stops to grab him, and it's none other than Jerry Garcia who picks him up.
No,
the true story. True story. And he gets in the car, and Jerry had just had to go bail his people out of jail. I don't know if Jerry went, or it must have been some of the other members that got arrested, but some of the Grateful Dead went to jail that night.
You know the song Truck, and there's a lyric in there about busting down on Bourbon Street.
That's where I'm going with this. That's where that lyric comes from. They got busted that night and for smoking pot on Bourbon Street, which, by the way, I've been to Bourbon Street. Everybody and their brother smoking pot up on Bourbon Street. So how they going to arrest one member of the Grateful Dead is beyond me. But at the same time, he asked Jerry, he said, Jerry, you think you'll ever come back to New Orleans since you got busted last night? And Jerry said, I don't know, man. I don't know. And he said it was over 10 years before they ever came back. Yeah. And he said, guess what?
What?
They were playing with Fleetwood Mac that night, too.
No way.
That they got all busted. Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's got the craziest Grateful Dead stories that I've ever heard. And I mean, this guy's late 60s, he's really cool and groovy, and major Deadhead. I mean, he gives me records. I'm just like, what is this? We talk about that track, the 11. Sometimes they have a track that's in 11/8.
I know, that's a great song.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, we talk time signatures a lot, and I was trying to tell him that you can count 11s and 3s and 2s to make it easier. Mm-hmm. You probably know this as a music teacher, but anytime you have 11/8 as a time signature. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. It makes 11.
Yeah.
If you can add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 is 11. Yeah. So you can count it, and I was trying to tell him because he was asking me about that track specifically, and I think. I'm trying to think, is it the whipping post that's in 11/8 too? I think it is,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You count it the exact same way. You break it down in 3s and 2s to make it easy. Yeah. So yeah, we go on these Grateful Dead rants all the time about the coolest thing, but that line trucking busted down on Bourbon Street, that's exactly what that line's about. They got busted on Bourbon Street.
I actually saw the Dead in New Orleans like early 90s. And we saw Bobby with the Bangles. The Bangles sat in with the Dead at that show. And then we saw Bobby hanging with the Bangles down on Bourbon Street afterward.
Well, I've met 2 of the Bangles.
You have? No, I didn't know that
either.
Yeah,
I met the Petersons, the sisters who formed the Bangles. Debbie and, is it Vicky? Yeah, Debbie and Vicky, they're sisters.
All right.
Drummer and lead singer. They came to my show in Girlfriend in L.A. My lead guitarist was great friends with them. So I met them.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super cool.
That was a good gig.
It was a good gig. I got to meet Courtney Love. I got to meet some cool people.
I like the musicals you do here at the JCC, too. I love
Jewish
Godspell.
Community Center.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Godspell
is my favorite musical of all time.
I tell you what, because you're old. I tell you what, I was not familiar with Godspell's musical, the music in it. I was familiar with that play being about Jesus Christ's life and the Judas thing and all that. But at the end of that run, I tell you what, that may top one of my favorite musicals of all time. That music is just so good.
I agree. I agree.
And that Alas For You track is all over the place with time signatures and whatnot.
That would be impossible to learn.
It's not. You know what happened? I said the same thing. When I looked at that, I was like, gosh. I was like, wow, how am I ever going to learn this piece of music? It's literally, I'm trying to think because my brain has been mushed since then, but I think it starts in 6-8-5-8. Mm-hmm. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5, and then it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and then 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. It just does all this crazy time signature stuff, and there's no pattern really to it. There is a slight pattern that you can figure out, but it's still complicated.
Yeah.
Well, I practiced that thing a million times, thinking I'm never gonna get this. And then it turned out to be the easiest piece that I played in that whole thing.
No way.
There were harder songs in 4/4 than there were than that piece. Isn't that how weird how music works like that?
It is.
Yeah.
But you're like, you being a woman drummer, you have always been my inspiration.
Oh, well, thank
female
you.
Drummers. There's some female drummers marching in the snare line and drum corps these days.
Yeah.
Real small
with their new fancy harnesses that don't hurt your breasts.
Oh my gosh. And I
Right.
just love those chicks. When I marched
Me
in Memphis
too.
Blues, we had a girl that came from the Netherlands to march snare. In
Wow,
83.
that's wild. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wild. Cool. That's where my peeps come from. I call it Holland. Some of my family, when you trace the history back, came from Holland.
Have you ever been there?
No, but I want to go.
All right, I'm going.
You're going?
Yeah.
When?
I don't know. Whenever we decide.
I would love to go with
I
you.
need to rob a bank or two first.
Well, I do have a 73 camper bus.
Okay. All right.
I wish we could just drive it there. It'd be awesome, but we got to fly it across that pond. No, but I would love to go to Amsterdam. I've never been to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, Holland, none of that, but I would really love to see it. Before my grandmother passed, my Granny Dimple, she was tracing back our family history and writing a book for each side of the family, her side and my grandfather's side, for all the grandkids and the kids and all that. And I was one of the many, many, many grandkids. Anyway, this is back before computers, so she actually had to fly over there, go to the library. She was a librarian. You had to trace back the roots and all this stuff, and then she wrote the book about it and then left us all with the books. So I've still got all the books about my family history, and it's got my family tree traced back to maybe the 1200s is my guess. Yeah.
Wow,
and
that's
they
old.
and they came to America to settle from Amsterdam, Holland area. So she brought me back a little wooden shoe that says Holland on it, and I still have it. It's in my living room right now.
Well, we need to go. I've got friends from drum corps from Memphis that live there.
Super cool.
All right,
So you got a
next
place to
year.
stay as long as we can get there?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
All
let's
right.
go. I
Okay.
hear they got all the good fun stuff over there.
Yep.
And I heard all about that red light district.
Wow, I'm scared of that.
Ba-boom. Nah, it's something similar to Bourbon Street. You'll be fine.
I don't know. I'm a pretty innocent girl these days.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, me
Yeah.
too. I don't even drink these days. Yeah.
It's a good thing. I don't either.
Yeah, I try not to, at least. I mean, yeah. It just makes me feel horrible. And I don't know. My body rejects it, And I would just start cussing everybody.
Me.
Sweet little old me.
Oh, I could see you.
Yeah,
I'm diabetic, and I'm just trying to take care of my body and make better choices for me, so I can make my best life. Is what I've been doing the last couple of years.
Well, diabetes runs in my family. I'm probably pretty sure I'm pre-diabetic. I've always been hypoglycemic, so I mean, when my body starts shaking, I got to go eat something ASAP. I carry peanuts and things with me, almonds almost always.
It's
just in
scary.
case I need that.
I live by myself, and
Yeah.
when your sugar crashes. I had to call my neighbor just a couple of weeks ago at 11 at night because it was like dangerously low.
Yeah.
And I had to call her before I passed out, and I hate calling 911.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't want to do that. They'll charge you like crazy.
Going to the ER and all that. No,
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Well, yeah, I don't like to do that at all. I don't like doctors that much. I don't even like modern medicine, to tell you the truth. I don't even take anything but an aspirin a day. Every now and then I'll take an anti-inflammatory. But that's about it. I don't like pills, never have, never will.
I'm on a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, when I was like 16, I was misdiagnosed by some doctors, and I was put on seizure meds and lots of seizure meds. And I do feel like they messed things up in my head that should not have been messed up. And then I weaned myself off of those meds in my 20s against doctor's orders. And then I started seeing a psychotherapist who saved my life. I don't know if you know her, but her name's Mary Zerini. I talk about her a lot. I wrote her a song called Immortalizing Zerini. She was one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She's still around town, too, and she's still doing therapy.
I'm too poor to do therapy right now, but I have a really good therapist that I trust completely. I've seen like on and off over a decade, 15
Well, I talk about this
even.
a lot. I think we all need therapy. And I've had a lot of music therapists in on the show this week and last week, and we talked a lot about mental health and a lot about therapy and using music for therapy and stuff like that. But she told me in my 30s, and she saw me for over 7 years, that I had zero signs of anything they had diagnosed me with. And then she said, how many times did the doctors see you that diagnosed you with this? And I got to thinking, I was like, two times. They saw me twice.
No.
And she was like, you should have not have been on seizure medications, or, I mean, it was all the bad stuff. It was like Prozac and Paxil and Depakote and I had Wellbutrin. I mean, literally everything you can imagine. Zoloft,
I was on some of those, and now I had a nervous breakdown when my mom died, and I'm like, don't give me medicines. It's not going to change what I'm going through.
No, I feel like the medicines No, not saying that people don't need medicine, because yes, I definitely think if you're diabetic, if you've got high blood pressure, there obviously are things that people definitely need medicine for. All about it. But I felt like in the 90s they were just diagnosing kids as scapegoats, and now every student you see is on an Adderall or ADHD meds or something. I feel like it masks the problem.
Exactly.
And it does not let you actually work through the problem to get it out of you. And the only way you can do that is through therapy. The only way you can do that is through talk therapy, music therapy of any sorts,
Therapy
no, it's not easy.
Not easy at all.
That's right, but I would rather go through something not easy and get it out than to take a med that's just going to mask it, and it will continually be there haunting me forever.
A lot of it's the drug companies.
Yeah, obviously, yes. Yeah, pharmaceutical companies are ridiculous.
I used to be in pharmacy management. I don't trust any drugs in the last 20 years that were made because of the crazy side effects.
Right, yeah.
They invent diseases.
Smoke more weed. I can say that on my show.
Yep, you can.
Yeah, I sure can.
I think that I don't even know where I was going with that.
Anyway, yeah, we're totally off topic, but yes, I was just giving you the point that I don't like a lot of meds because I don't take meds because I was misdiagnosed and they had me on all kinds of meds, and I know, I live in my body. I know how it affected me. You know what I mean, like that, and I do think that. It's these pharmaceutical companies pushing these doctors to press these meds on kids and all this stuff. And, gosh, it's messed up.
There was this diabetic drug called Byetta that I know they were giving my doctor to that time a kickback for prescribing it. And it was made out of lizard venom, lizard spit.
What?
Yeah.
Ew.
And so it helped your blood sugar, but you were so sick you couldn't eat. And, he was prescribing that left and right. And
what do you do? I wanted to ask you, because you do suffer from hypoglycemia and you're diabetic. What do you do when your sugar drops? What do you have to do?
Because I'm on insulin, mine, when it crashes, it's bad. I've had points where I've had to drink like 2 whole sodas just to keep from passing out.
Yeah.
Because insulin... I've lost 80 pounds in the last couple of years.
Congratulations, by the way. And I've lost a lot, too. I'm back up a little bit, but I'm more of a healthier up than I was 270 when I started.
I was 270.
Was you really?
Yeah. Wow. And now I'm wearing sizes that I haven't worn since the 80s.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Out.
Yeah.
So my body's going through all this metamorphosis. The drugs aren't working. If I took all the blood pressure medicines after I lost weight, I had to go to the hospital for low blood pressure. So the last year, I've just been trying to balance out the medications with my metabolism. And it's still kind of hard to deal with sometimes.
Wow. Well, kudos to you for hanging in there. Hey, I tell you what, we're going to take a short break, and guess what I've got queued up?
What?
The Grateful Dead's truck. And
all right, there
we go. Yeah. You're on Jyneration Nation. I am Jen Yates, the generator. Stay tuned. We got Janet Wolfe up in the studios at LRS102.com. It's Aerosmith and Run DMC. It's tricky. No, I'm totally. It's Walk This Way. You're on LRS102.com. The Walrus. I'm Jen Yates, the generator, and you're on Jyneration Nation. I'm joined by Janet Planet. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I love this building. Launch Louisville.
I know, isn't it cool?
Oh, I love this building. My friends from Dark Star TV just moved in here.
Oh, yes. I know exactly Dark Star TV. Yeah, they're the big old Grateful Dead video. They did the Grateful Dead music festival last weekend.
Yeah, I didn't go the second day. I watched from home.
Yeah, I tried to get down there. I didn't. I had free tickets, but I just didn't make it down there. I wanted to show you some. First off, what do you think about the nickname, the Generator? Bev McClellan gave me that.
It's perfect. It's perfect for you. You're starting your branding. It's good.
I know, it's branding. Genspiration, gender bender, anything with a JYN instead of a GEN, you know what I mean? The Generator, JYN, obviously. Generation Nation, Generation Studios. It is a brand. It is a brand.
We're all building a brand. Little Janet Planet's going to become a brand one of these days.
Well, you just wait. I'm gonna outdo Bethany and her skinny girl, Brandon. You watch that.
Oh, both of us will.
Oh, man. And yes, we just talked about I got that secret money you sent me up in my Yeti can hidden in my room.
Don't tell anybody your hiding spot.
Oh, well, good luck finding it. You got to get through me first. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to show you something because we are on air. And obviously, Janet, you're a female drummer. You're also a music educator. And you've done a lot of really cool stuff. And you marched in DCI, Drum Corps Internationals. And, just done some cool stuff. I wanted to show you this. This is, it's called Women Drummers, A History from Rock and Jazz to Blues and Country, written by Miss Angela Smith. And look at your cover girl right there from Louisville, Kentucky.
I have been looking at this book on Amazon for 2 years, and I'm too poor to buy it.
Oh, we're going to have to get you a book. Angela, if you're listening, we need to send Janet a book.
Yeah, Angela, pretty please.
Because she is a great female drummer. Yeah.
I still have an African djembe. It's from Ghana.
Yeah. Ghana, cool.
It has a pink fabric around it to signify it's a woman's drum. It's got tribal carvings in it. And I'm poor, I'm trying not to sell it.
Don't sell it.
I'm trying.
Don't do it. It ain't worth it.
That drum is supposed to be mine. There was some Native American guy on Bardstown Road one day with it. And it landed in my lap. It's supposed to be there.
I know you know this, but I own a 73 Volkswagen camper bus.
Yeah.
I was offered like $30,000 for that thing the other day, and I said no, I can't do it. No matter, I will be poor, not having a house, not having a place to rest my head before I sell that camper bus.
You can sleep in the van.
Well, you're right. You're actually right about that. It's actually pops up and has a bed up in the top of it with the little sides and zip like with vents, like a tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty groovy. So anyway, when you see that book, and what I was going to tell you is that traces women drummers from prehistoric times until current. And did you know that the drum was considered a feminine instrument?
No.
That's what that talks about.
But that goes into that whole, my djembe is a woman's drum thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, they thought it would help with childbirth back in the day, and they thought it would help with lots of therapeutic things, which we all know it does. I had Michelle Lewis up in the studios not too long ago, and she's a big music educator, and I've had all these music therapists up in here talking about this exact same subject, and they always talk about how the drum, more than any other instrument, is healing. It's a healing instrument. Think about that.
It can be like our heartbeat. It
maybe
helps.
And it's right up there with the meditation bowls. Those are very therapeutic. They can hit certain hertz. And I am trying to get this lady, LaFrey Sai, who is also a great female drummer, drum with Shaka Khan, and I met her a while back to talk about, she studied all the hertz. Music is all at hertz.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which vibration? 432 is supposed to be the very healing.
That's what I'm saying. So I want her in here to talk about certain hertz levels. So if you hit a meditation bowl at like 432 hertz, that is supposed to be healing to certain areas of the body. In fact, that one is the most healing. It's supposed to heal more things inside your body. And have you ever heard of the theory that they've discovered the cure for cancer? They just never put it out there.
Well, there's a few of them that are kind of hidden.
Like conspiracy theory type stuff?
Oh, yeah.
They do claim that most of the healing stuff can be done through vibrational medicine, which is drumming, which is meditation bowls, moving your insides at certain hertz, vibrating things.
I've studied some of that stuff.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Yes, and I totally believe it because I have sat and had meditation bowls. I tell you what, this was an amazing story. I'll make it really quick. but I went to this lady named Reverend Ray. Rev Ray, we call her. I don't know if you ever met her. She was part of the Troubadours of Divine Bliss clan. I kind of met her through them. She was a Native American and just a spiritual soul, a really interesting one. And she did the meditation bowls as well as cleansing of environments when she felt like negative spirits were there and all kinds of really cool things, like almost like a shaman in a ladylike way, you know. So she said, have you ever had the meditation bowls done on you? And I said, no, but I need some healing. So, you know, I go in there and I'm laying on this bed and I've got my eyes closed and she's singing. She had a beautiful voice and she's got this, you know, this big eagle feather and she's waving some kind of smoke in the air and waving it around, you know, cleansing, sage. Yeah. And then she starts with those meditation bowls and she had these huge crystal bowls. I mean, gorgeous, very expensive bowls. And she starts going around with that, and she would like lay it on my stomach, and I'd start to cry. I would start to cry. It would do something very strange to my body, you know. And she goes, "You're releasing. This is how you're releasing." So I want to get those people in here to talk about music healing through the hertz and the vibrational stuff, because I'm a big fan of that, and I really do believe that it has completely helped me a lot over the years. You know. Yeah. Are you into any of that stuff? Because I love that new agey kind of
I'm studying all sorts of ways about empowerment and natural healing. And I know sound is a big part of it. Music is music has been my therapy since I was like 4, started playing on that piano. Yeah.
I'm like, if I ever have to lose anything, God, don't let me lose my hearing. Yeah. You know, I want to be able to hear music. And feel it. Obviously, as a drummer, we know this we know this firsthand. Drums, when you hit a drum, it's vibrating the drum head, and then it sends kind of a vibrational back into your body. You feel it. You know, I was trying to think if any other instrument would give you that, and I really don't think it has to be something you hit. It has to be something percussive, I would think.
It does. I mean, even though I'm disabled now, I still take an egg shaker with me wherever I go. Yeah. So I can still drum.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. You said you carry that.
Yeah, it's a rhythm of life kind of thing.
It is. We have a heartbeat that's pumping a constant rhythm that is keeping us alive here today on Earth.
Exactly.
We are a rhythmic machine, you know, born and bred, straight up. So... so fascinating stuff. So is there anything that we've left out that you want to talk about concerning music? Because, man, you've done a lot of really cool things.
I met Bono back in the 80s. I actually worked in the studio in Memphis.
What? Well, wait, and you're just now dropping this bomb on me?
I have a lot of stories. It'll take more than 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back.
I was up in the green room in the studio.
Wait, okay, real quick, just in case listeners are just tuning in. You just said you just met Bono?
In the 80s.
From U2.
Yeah, because he used to hang out in Memphis, and I used to be friends with a music critic named Bob Palmer.
You used to live in Memphis, right? You said.
Yeah. That's did you have any kind of?
Did you ever do anything with like Sun Records or?
No, I just worked in the studio on Beale Street, and I met Palmer. That was about it.
Palmer?
I mean, Bono. Palmer was his friend, though.
Okay.
Palmer met Bono doing the Sunside for Apartheid album.
Hey, real quick, I just got back from Memphis, and I went to Sun Studios, and they have U2's drum set in Sun Studio on in Memphis.
My friend Dave Aaron, that was his first big gig, was that U2 album. In the 80s. And he just died a couple of years ago. He was at Death Row Records, too. He was
Death Row?
He was at Snoop Dogg's, yeah.
He was with Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, he did his front of house for a long time.
Drop it like a tot. Yeah.
He worked with all of them. I knew he just died last year, and makes my heart really sad.
Wow, and you were good friends with this cat, huh?
Yeah, best engineering years on the earth.
Wow.
Truly, he's worked with Madonna, Prince, everybody.
Wow.
And he's not here anymore, and I love him. He plays clarinet. He did.
It all goes back to that clarinet.
It does.
It sure does. We all start out on that woodwind thing. That long squawky thing, with that reed. That's how you have to have them. They have to have a certain moisture,
And half of them are junk, and they don't play, and you have to whittle them down. They're annoying.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But anyway. when I met Bono in the studio, he was saying that the drum machines go back to African tribal rhythms.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's fascinating, and I believe anything he says because I think he's a great dude.
And he also said that the blues was genetic to us, and that we felt it before we were born.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I can see that.
That was on Beale Street.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Blues. There's a famous Willie Nelson quote, and by the way, I want to say we want to send out special prayers to Willie Nelson. Did you see that he had to cancel a tour because he's having a hard time breathing or something like that? So I just want to send out a special prayer to him because him and Dolly Parton are at the top of my list to work with. If I could ever get to pick a top 5 musically to work with, it's Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson. Those are my 2 right there that I really want to do some work with. And there's rappers and everything else on there too, but I want to say a special prayer to him. But Willie Nelson has a famous quote that talks about the blues. He says it's the only style of music that you can write out of heartbreak that makes everybody else happy.
Wow.
And it's fascinating when you think about it, because when you go to a blues joint, they're usually always dancing.
Yeah.
Because blues, I feel like, my theory is this, and I may be completely wrong, just my own personal theory from my teaching and playing music experience, is that most blues is either 6/8 or a shuffle. Okay, so a shuffle is based out of triplets, and triplets, if you looked at triplets in 2/4, you would have 6/8.
Yeah,
okay.
That's
so
what
it's the same thing. Okay, technically, a shuffle is a triplet with the middle note cut out that makes a da 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 sound. Where a 6/8 is a 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. So anyway, if you cut out that middle note, you would get the shuffle, but you still have a triplet feel at the basis of it. So my theory is there is something about a triplet feel. Any groove that's based off of a triplet feel, a shuffle, a 6/8, both are. It swings. Obviously, that's why I call it swing music, because it's a lot of triplet-based stuff, and it makes your body physically swing right to left, to right to left, right, left. It makes you feel that when you play it, right? You don't necessarily get that feel when you're playing just a straight 8th note. Any kind of straight rhythm that's an 8th note based or 16th note based, you do not get that feel. You get a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's more strict.
It's
exactly.
mechanical.
Exactly.
So it doesn't hit the emotional spot.
Correct. So
kind
therefore,
like the 11 and the dead.
Yeah.
It keeps you
it's
off
in 3s
a
and then
bit.
a 2 and then a 3 and then exactly.
You
but
know.
The whole point of that being most blues music incites you to dance because it's based off of the 3 feel instead of a strict mechanical feel.
Okay.
So a lot of the older generation will always say to me, I just hate music today. It's not the same as it used to be, and da-da-da. I feel like that change happened in as generations passed, when rock and roll started coming more into the forefront. Early rock and roll was based off of those shuffles and those triplet feels and that bluesy kind of style. Obviously, rock and roll was birthed out of blues.
Yeah.
But at the same time, rock and roll, as it progressed, Beatles, 60s, 70s, it started getting more strict mechanical feel, 8th note based. It wasn't as triplet based, and it wasn't as swing based as a straight feel. So I feel like that's where the change happened, because it made it less dancey. Because I can still go to Stevie Ray's right now and play with the blues band and play a shuffle, and if I play it right and they're playing right with me, it's going to make people dance.
You're right.
8th notes don't always do that.
I think you're onto something there.
I might be. I might need to write me one of them autobiographies like Mickey Hart did, because he's one of my favorite drummers. Obviously, one of the drummer of the Grateful Dead.
I went to a seminar with him once.
You did. Tell me all about that. We're running out of time, but I could talk to you all day about that.
It was before a show, and he was saying he was the hunter-gatherer of world music. There were like 20 of us there.
Yeah.
My friend was a manager at Tower Records, so
interesting.
We got to go free to that one, and he's amazing.
Yeah. Mickey Hart is fascinating. He takes literally things from the universe, and and he what was the last gig he did here? It was the one I went to Headliners to see him, and he was playing the beam. I got to touch his beam, by the way.
You didn't.
It sounds dirty, but it's not. If you didn't know, the Grateful Dead have this interesting instrument called the beam, and it's this big long thing with strings, and he hits it with a violin kind of bow and all kinds of hammers, and just it's interesting. Way out there, like the Dead would be, that's who they were. They were cool like that.
Now, the Grateful Dead always had a drums into space.
Yeah, time and space. Yeah,
You know,
space and time, whatever you want to call
they're
it.
finally, since both the drummers are back, they're back to the drums in space where
Good.
he can just
He
dance
can use that beam and stuff like that.
and
Yeah.
listen to that rhythm and
I
dig
talk a
on that
lot
for a while.
with my buddy about Zakir Hussain, who was on tour with Mickey Hart, who was the famous tabla player from India. And they had that, is it the Zigga Rhythm Band? Digga Rhythm Band?
Yeah.
Project together is fascinating. But anyway, he used to literally like import in brainwaves and transport them into rhythms and stuff like that. I mean, he's real, you know, what's that word? Futuristic thinking when it comes to stuff like that, or just, I call it anointed. He's on a different level than just your normal everyday BS that you deal with. I mean, he is way up here with his thought process and has gone to the depths of knowledge about rhythm and drumming. It's fascinating. His books, The Magic of Drumming, The Magic of Drumming, or Drumming on the Edge of Magic. Drumming on the Edge of Magic.
There we go.
Yeah. By Mickey Hart. Go pick that book up and read it and tell me it doesn't blow your mind.
Yeah,
it's mind-blowing. Well, Janet, it's been awesome having you on the show today.
It's good to see you again.
Absolutely. We go way back, and we're both female drummers. Power to the female drummers.
I'll probably come to your gig next weekend at Joe's.
Oh, please do. Yes, please do. With the Nick Payne. I'll drop that right now. The Kentucky Beatniks will be playing at Joe's Older Than Dirt. That's in Linden, Kentucky. That's right there on the little strip. They've got this really cool, groovy outdoor space, and they got all these games. It's kid-friendly, zero cover. Kid-friendly, bring your whole family. You can sit right there on the patio, listen to us, play games, eat some cheap food, and they're just great people.
Pranksters are playing there this Friday.
Oh, cool. The Merry Pranksters.
Fridays in a row.
All right, man. They hire some groovy people up in there. And my buddy Nick Payne and me have a project called the Kentucky Beatniks that we do all kinds of great cover songs and originals and all kinds of cool stuff. Nick Payne is another anointed musician in this town.
Him.
Yes, I'm trying to get him in here. He just works way too much. He's my brother, though, you know. So anyway, yes. So come out to that. I will see you there next weekend.
Yep.
And, there's all kinds of cool stuff going on with LRS. I just want to remind everybody that we're going to have a VIP Bourbon and Beyond drawing at Floyd County Brewing Company. That's on August 31st with Golden Ticket and Chris Robino and the Newburgh Soul. That's from 8 to 11 p.m. Also, someday soon we'll be playing that. So that's August 31st if you want to check that out and get registered to win those VIP Bourbon and Beyond drawing. And Janet, awesome time, man. As always, I always have a good time with you.
I always have a good time with you, too.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave it with, let's do, what about some Pretenders to end it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hello, Missing Christiane. It's Jen Yates tune back in tomorrow as I have a drag king on my show. Tammy Baldwin's going to be up in the house. She's been doing Alice Cooper since 73.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. So anyway, tune in tomorrow. And as always, y'all, keep it groovy.